General Hospital Today will reveal. In the latest shocking turn of events on General Hospital, the storyline surrounding Anna Devane has taken a harrowing descent into psychological terror and institutional entrapment. What began as a cryptic warnings about Cesar Fison's potential return has escalated into something deeply disturbing saga that questions not only Anna's sanity, but the integrity of those entrusted with her care. For viewers who have followed Anna's long journey through espionage, betrayal, and redemption, this newest chapter paints her not only as a heroine in control, but as a woman systematically stripped of agency, trapped in a nightmare that blurs the boundaries between drama and reality. The first hints of this unraveling emerged when Emma Scorpio Drake received a mysterious phone call from a small French town. Emma, ever the tenacious granddaughter of a super spy, followed the lead and began to piece together a troubling story. Anna had intercepted a vehicle, claiming that she had escaped captivity and urgently needed to share a warning. According to updates Emma later received, Anna was desperate to inform someone, anyone, that Fison was still alive. The response, however, was not concern but containment. Those in power interpreted Anna's behavior not as the rational panic of a seasoned intelligence agent, but the frenzied ramblings of someone unwell. Emma, realizing the gravity of what Anna had endured and still faced, brought the information to the Quartermaine estate, where she revealed the full scope of what she knew. Anna's claim that she had been held hostage and only narrowly escaped was dismissed, and the emphasis shifted to her mental stability rather than the content of her warning. It soon became apparent that Anna's time in captivity may soon have involved psychological manipulation and chemical sedation, altering her ability to process or relay truth. The suggestion that her fears were hallucinations conveniently fed into a larger narrative designed to discredit her. As Emma uncovered more, she learned that Anna's reports were being used against her to justify her involuntary placement in a mental health facility. The sinister hands guiding this institutional imprisonment belong, in part, to Jen Sidwell and Ross Cullum, figures whose presence at the hospital suggest a darker agenda. With the help of Pascal, these men seem to have implemented a form of treatment that does more to destabilize than to heal. The medications administered to Anna have eroded her clarity, triggering hallucinations and further blurring the line between trauma-induced perception and chemically induced delusion. Under such conditions, Anna's belief that Fison remains alive has become a potent tool in the hands of her enemies. What might be a valid concern, especially given the history of fake deaths and resurrection in Port Charles, has been transformed into a convenient pretext for confinement. Her insistence that Fison is manipulating events from the shadows is not being investigated, but being treated as evidence of psychosis. In the cruelest twist, the one woman who has so often protected others is now deemed a danger to herself and disqualified from being taken seriously. The cruelty of the situation intensifies when Anna, despite her fragile condition, manages to reach out to Felicia Scorpio in a desperate plea. Felicia, once her confidant and partner in rivaling deadly schemes, becomes her last hope. In a heart-wrenching moment captured in the promo for the week of February 2nd to 6th, Anna begs for help, not just to escape the facility, but to be believed. Her words, likely disjointed and delivered through tears, echo a deeper fear, that the more she fights for the truth, the deeper she sinks into the image of madness constructed for her. The institutional system that claims to offer help has instead become a prison where dissent is pathologized and trauma is dismissed as delusion. The burden of her history with Fison only exacerbates her situation. Having once been deadly entangled with him both professionally and psychologically, her claims now seem to suspect those who never understood the full horror of what she endured. Moreover, the involvement of Peter August and Liesl Obrecht in her accusations cast further doubt in the eyes of skeptical authorities. Both are controversial figures with long and complicated legacies in Port Charles, and Anna's tangled relationship with them have made her assertions even harder for outsiders to untangle. Behind the cold walls of the facility, Anna is not just fighting for her freedom, but for her reality. The woman who once orchestrated brilliant counter-espionage operations now struggles to hold on to her sense of self. Every sedative administered becomes a weapon, every interview a test she's doomed to fail. Cullum and Sidwell have constructed a clinical labyrinth where her cries are reduced to symptoms, her memories rewritten as fantasies. Viewers are left to question whether this is an elaborate manipulation orchestrated to silence Anna or worse, a genuine psychological breakdown that stems from years of unrelenting trauma. The blurred line is what makes this storyline so disturbing. If Anna is right and Faison has somehow returned, then the consequences of her confinement are catastrophic. A predator long thought vanquished would be free to act in the shadows unchecked, while the only person aware of his presence is systematically neutralized. But if she's wrong, if the ghosts of her past have finally consumed her, then Anna may never return from the psychological abyss she's fallen into. This turn of events is not just a personal tragedy but a societal indictment. It raises piercing questions about how institutions treat women with histories of trauma, how narratives of madness are weaponized, and how truth can be buried beneath diagnosis. For longtime fans of General Hospital, watching Anna be slowly unraveled is both heartbreaking and infuriating. This is a woman who has faced down death and betrayal with steel in her spine, now rendered voiceless by a system that pretends to offer care. Emma's involvement hints at a possible light at the end of the tunnel, but the road to rescue, if one exists, will be perilous. Felicia too may become a key player in either freeing Anna or condemning her further, depending on how she chooses to act. The question now is not just whether Anna can escape the institution, but whether she can escape the narrative being built around her, a narrative in which she is no longer the hero, but the broken relic of a war no one else wants to remember. As February unfolds, viewers will be watching with bated breath. Will Anna be believed? Will someone step forward to investigate her claims? Or will Port Charles lose one of its fiercest protectors to a lie so expertly crafted it becomes indistinguishable from truth? The horror of this storyline isn't just in the confinement, but in the erasure of identity, of memory, of credibility. If Anna falls, it won't just be a personal loss. It will be a devastating reminder of how easily society can dismantle a woman's voice once it decides she's too difficult, too complicated, too inconvenient to listen to. As the harrowing arc surrounding Anna Devane continues to unfold on General Hospital, her fear over the dark specter of Cesar Faison grows more acute. Despite her strength and deep-rooted instincts as a former spy, Anna is being emotionally cornered. In her mind, a battlefield of truth, trauma, and chemical influence. Her paranoia is not baseless. The man who once terrorized her may still be operating in the shadows. But what torments her even more than the possibility of Faison's survival is the looming threat of being incarcerated. Again, this time not in a dungeon or a remote compound, but within the sterile, suffocating walls of a psychiatric institution where her autonomy is stripped in the name of care. The very idea of being institutionalized again horrifies her, not just because of the physical confinement, but because of what it symbolizes: the systematic dismantling of her credibility, the negation of everything she knows to be real. Unfortunately, the tide is moving against her. With her behavior painted as erratic and her warnings about Faison dismissed as delusional, it appears that those in power may soon determine that Anna is unfit to return to the outside world. The implications are chilling. Rather than investigating her claims, officials may instead reach the conclusion that Anna poses a risk to herself and possibly to others. Her acute awareness of danger, sharpened by years in the field, is now used against her, reframed as paranoia. This not only isolates her from the community she once protected, but justifies the next phase of her entrapment. With her recent emotional breakdowns and strained recollections manipulated into medical evidence, the institutional wheels are already turning. At the center of this twisted narrative stand two imposing figures, Director Ross Cullum and Jen Sidwell. These men, cloaked in professional authority, are orchestrating something far more insidious than simple psychiatric care. Their influence over medical and legal channels means they can dictate Anna's treatment path without scrutiny. Their motives remain veiled, but their actions are calculated. The likely outcome is that Anna will soon be transferred to a long-term facility like Shady Brook, a name familiar to longtime viewers for its history of housing characters caught in mental and emotional crises. But Shady Brook may not be a sanctuary. It may become a crucible in which Anna's will is tested, her memory rewritten, and her identity slowly dissolved. What's particularly disturbing is the growing likelihood that someone within the facility will be specifically assigned to medicate Anna aggressively. Under the guise of stabilizing her, Cullum and Sidwell can order a regimen of potent sedatives and antipsychotics, ensuring that Anna remains docile and disoriented. These drugs, far from therapeutic, serve a dual purpose: to silence and to discredit. With each injection, Anna is pushed further from lucidity, her pleas increasingly incoherent, her fight dimming into resignation. It is a form of chemical imprisonment, a slow erasure disguised as care. The most devastating part of this manipulation is that it's being carried out not with shackles, but with syringes and clinical notes. Meanwhile, Anna's loved ones will undoubtedly begin to worry. Emma, having already uncovered part of the conspiracy, may try to reach out or intervene, but her access could be limited. Felicia, haunted by Anna's recent cries for help, may be torn between trusting her instincts and following institutional protocol. Robert Scorpio, if he becomes aware, we might attempt to challenge the medical decisions being made, but even his legal and political connections may falter against the power Cullum and Sidwell wield. This layered web of control ensures that any rescue attempt is complicated not only by logistics, but by the very narrative being spun around Anna. Each moment she spends inside the facility tightens the story of her instability, making it harder for allies to present an alternative truth.